Welcome to part 2 of the Gelli printing video series. In this video, we're going to be actually making the Gelli print. We'll talk a little bit more about why we adjusted the levels, how to prepare your Gelli plate, putting your printed image on the Gelli plate in order to make a relief, adding color to your Gelli print, and then finally pulling the print. So why did we adjust the levels on the image? Well, this is basically in order to make the printed image work on your Gelli plate. Images from magazines are usually printed in what is called a 4-color process. The ink is getting laid down on the paper, and you're actually getting layers printed on the paper. And if you could like zoom in with a microscope, you'd be able to see like these almost like peaks and valleys, kind of like the grooves in a record. That depth is needed to resist the ink that is on the gel plate. More toner equals resistance. So what's going to happen is we're going to print a black and white image. The Oakland Tribune Tower image that we did in the first video, when we print that out, it's going to be in black and white. Everything that's black on that page, the paint that we put on the Gelli plate is not going to adhere to anything that is black on the printed paper, but it will stick to anything that's white. So when you peel the image off, all that's going to be left on the Gelli plate is the black parts that did not stick to the black parts from the printed image. I've found success using heavy body acrylic paints. This seems to work the best. When you print your image through a laser printer, I want you to take the print and just kind of lightly rub your fingers across the top of the image, and you'll feel what I'm talking about in terms of like the depth. So when we were altering the levels, or when we were adjusting the contrast and the depth of those levels on each channel, cyan, yellow, magenta, and black, what we were doing is we were telling the printer to send as much ink as possible to each one of those channels, so that we can build up as much resistance as possible once we put our paper down onto the gel plate. After I put the image down onto the gel plate with the ink or the paint, the heavy body acrylic paint on the gel plate, I'm going to leave it on for about 10 or 12 seconds, and then I'm going to gently peel off. And what you're going to see is the image that you had on paper is now going to be transferred onto the gel plate. Now this next step, where we're adding color on top of the black image that we just got onto the gel plate, you could skip this part. If you just wanted to use the transparent image, you would have to put the paper down, or you would have to put some paper down onto the plate while the black ink is still wet. If you wait too long by mistake, or you just forget, there's still a way to get that black ink off of the gel plate without the need of adding another color onto the plate. You can add a clear matte fluid onto the plate while the black ink or that first layer is dry. And what that'll do is that'll reactivate the plate. So now that topmost layer of clear matte medium is going to be it's active, so it's going to be wet. So now you could put paper down on top of that, wait about 10 or so minutes, and then when you peel off the paper from the plate, you will only have the black image onto your paper, and you won't see any other colors behind it. You could even use tissue paper to pull this transparency image off of the plate, and you can do a lot of different things with that. Since we added a lot of paint to this plate, you could just let it sit and dry, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to use the blow dryer. Make sure to use the cool setting on your blow dryer. Don't put the heat directly onto the gel plate. It could warp your plate, it could melt it a little bit, and it won't be as usable. So yeah, just try to use that cool setting. Now that that's cool, I'm going to add a final layer of paint onto this so I can kind of like reactivate the ability for me to put a piece of paper on top of that wet layer of paint, let it dry, and then once it's dried, it's basically going to adhere to the paper, and it's going to adhere to all of the other paint that was on the plate before it that has dried. So that's kind of like the magic part of this whole process. Now you can apply more pressure here. So put your paper down and you can kind of give it a firm press, but you can also add some weight to it by putting some heavy books or weights on top of the paper and letting it sit for anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. Okay, now you should be ready to pull the paper off of the gel plate and you will be able to see the image that you made. Try to pull at an angle and pull slowly so you can make sure that you're getting the image off of the plate. All right, so we'll take a look at my print here, and I was moving kind of fast trying to make this video, but it's got some interesting qualities to it. It's got kind of a painterly feel, and you actually are seeing some residue from a previous image that I must have had on the plate as well. So this one's not as clean, but I think it gets the point across in terms of showing everyone what can be done with a gel plate. You'll definitely want to experiment and try a lot of different try to do this in as many different ways as possible. It's a process, and you're not going to be successful the first time. I definitely wasn't. It took a lot of tries, but the way that I've kind of gone through this has gotten me consistently to where I want to go with my prints. I hope this video helps. I hope you refer to this often, and good luck. I hope to see your artwork out there at some point, sometime soon. Thanks for watching.